Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to She Scores, the World Cup special. Joining me today, Milsey and the super awesome doctor, Lauren. How are you guys doing? Did you guys enjoy the first round of World Cup? Lauren, let's start with you.
Doing well, thank you. Yeah, love the first round. It had so many more surprises than I could have ever
Yeah.
expected. I think I speak for everybody. I think the world is finally catching up. I think we're part of history with women's
Yeah.
soccer. So, in the past, these smaller and newer teams didn't have the chops, and the whole world is shaking it up now. So, loving it.
Lot of parity. And last World Cup, like we US women's national team, we beat every team like what 10-0, 5-0. That's coming down. Too many upsets. Parity in women's soccer is amazing right now. Milty, what was your takeaway from the group stages outside of the upsets?
Like it's just as Dr. Hagel said, the world has caught up to the because, and this is large in part to the success of the U.S. women's national team. Of course, we had all the infrastructure and the resources for a while, but now more federations are pumping money into the women's game, and we can see it with the skills. And the youth movement is really like Linda Caicedo, even with Portugal, Kika Nazareth, and even Lauren James for England. It's very interesting seeing all the future is now.
Yep. And the best part is it's like unfortunate like women's like US women's national team is super awesome, but the league, the NWSL in the US is not as popular as the EPL like women's league, but like La Liga and German Bundesliga women's league. Those are going to a different level. I really hope NWSL like picks up the same level as the European leagues.
That's such an interesting point because I feel like those other like parts of the world's leagues have grown exponentially
Mhm.
so fast because for so long the US was really the only reputable
Right?
professional program, and then all of a sudden, uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's awesome. Well, guys, we have to dive into the World Cup. Too many upsets. Germany, Brazil, Italy, Argentina, Canada. Oh my God! Like, and first time ever, we have three African teams in the Women's World Cup, which is amazing. Morocco, Nigeria, and South Africa. Oh my God, Milty, do you want to like expand on all the upsets, and then we'll jump on to Lauren for her thoughts?
Yeah, as you mentioned, like I said, there's so much parity, and like these smaller nations have come not just say, "Oh my God, we're in the World Cup," but they've come to compete. Germany, they drew South Korea, and they really needed to win this game because remember they lost to Colombia earlier, so they needed to get those 3 points to advance. But South Korea, they parked the bus after scoring their first goal, and then that allowed Morocco to go through during that game, which is very interesting. And of course, by Jamaica, they stonewalled Brazil, and like they did not concede a goal, and they led all teams in clearances, and that defense was impregnable. So that was really interesting. And of course, Italy, they completely underestimated South Africa, and then South Africa ran them off the pitch. Their pace was crazy, and they scored, and this completely shocked the world.
Awesome. Yes, Lauren. What were your takeaway on the upsets, and did anything like stand out outside of Germany and Brazil? I think those were like the two big
I
upsets,
think Morocco was one of the more surprising ones to actually get through for me.
especially with their men's team coming in too. So men's and women's making a World Cup run.
That whole country, watch out.
Yeah.
And then also, I have to say that in our last She Scores segment, I did have an underdog prediction of Nigeria, even though there was a lot of doubts. But I would
That's a good
like to
one.
take this moment to say that they've made it. So,
Yes.
very happy for them, obviously. That's incredible. And then Jamaica, Mills, I'm happy for you and I'm happy for them. Uh,
Yes.
they just were so fired up the entire first round and relentless. I was actually researching more about that team, just was blown away that they were underfunded and they were getting additional funding specifically from like Bob Marley's daughter, I believe.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, there's like one of the players' mothers started a GoFundMe page with a
Dang.
goal of 100K just to get them there. They had to cancel the majority of their international matches in the last few years because they didn't have the money. So to
Oh,
think about how underexperienced they were with international match play and to go in like that is just, it gives me chills actually. So
that is an amazing underdog, sir. I hope they make it farther and kind of
yeah.
put some on the world stage. Three teams, guys, had a perfect record, kind of a perfect record. So Sweden, Japan, and England won all their three games, but Japan was the only country which didn't allow a single goal. They had like a pitch perfect group stage matches. So let's see what they do in the next round. So let's jump onto some injuries, Lauren. So me and Mills were kind of doing some research. We had like 3 different categories of injuries. We felt like more injuries were happening in these 3 categories. So I think it was like head injuries, knee injuries, and some lower extremities. So Millsy, I'll let you like deep dive on it, and Lauren can kind of help us understand what's happening with these injuries during the World Cup.
Yeah, what's it? As you mentioned, we've been looking at it, and we've been looking at all the reports that have been coming out of camps and stuff like that, and also looking at the games. And out of training, there was an absorbent amount of calf injuries coming out of training on the pitch. We've seen a couple of head injuries, which is and of course the specter of the ACL is still hovering around the women's game, and just some notable calf injuries. We all saw the almost the face of this, Sam Kerr, the Australian striker. She dealt with a calf strain, and she was out 2 matches, but she was able to come back. That she was cleared. Also, our own Megan Rapinoe, she's been dealing with playing through a calf injury. Also, Wendy Renard, which scared me because she had a left calf strain during thing, but she was able to come back and score the winning goal versus Brazil. And also, the German central midfielder Lena, I think I'm saying wrong, Obendorf, she was playing through a mild calf strain as well.
Yeah, so with these calf strains, they are really prevalent right now, and it makes sense when you think about the mechanics of the body. Any kind of push off from the toe, sprinting, jumping, landing, those muscles absorb a lot, and over time, it's a very easy thing to break down. So there's like little micro traumas that can occur with some extra strain, maybe overuse, so many games, so many practices, preparations, and it can just kind of get to this point where maybe it's sub threshold for a little while, and then like one more insult is the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. But there's varying degrees of how much of the muscle fibers or tendons are quote unquote strained or frayed, and if it's really mild, like the player was Reinhardt.
Wendy Renard for France. Yes.
Thank you. I figured I butchered that name, but she was able to come back. So as you can see on like best case scenario, it must have been pretty mild. The other thing to think about is the longevity. Could these players be all playing right now? Maybe more of them could actually be in the game, but how much damage would it do to the calf tissue, and how much longer would they have to sit out? Especially if there's a chance for them to get back before the cup ends, if their team's still in. You want to preserve them, especially like Sam Kerr. It was very smart to preserve her for these bigger matches. So fingers crossed. I mean, if this is grade 2 or above, forget it. These muscle strains can linger for months and months and months, depending on how severe and whatnot.
Do calf strains like linger as much as hamstring, or is it like little forgiving than hamstrings? I know like soft tissue injuries for hamstring has been a problem for men's soccer players, football players. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I do generally think that hamstrings have that reputation, and there's, I think, some truth to that for sure. Hamstrings are really big muscles, and can be nagging, and can really with sprinting, you hear this with like the 400 meter in particular, like it's just like all of a sudden, boom. So they can be nasty, but it's muscle strains still have the same like mechanism of injury when they're irritated. So it does come down to the severity regardless of the location. But I've treated lots of patients with calf strains that just were nagging, and like, especially if they're not getting the proper rest and they just keep kind of irritating it. Mm-hmm. I've seen it last for over a year. Then you get into more like the whys, and this might not always be these high level athletes, but sometimes it is because they have more games to play, more practices if they're trying to get back. But a lot of the weekend warriors, they might have more overall issues that lead to it, like their glutes aren't firing enough. But you'd be surprised. Some of these pro athletes, I worked with an NFL player that could not get his glutes to engage after a hip injury, and he was so frustrated. So they're not immune to those kind of imbalances. In fact, they are such master compensators that they are so skilled at making the job done that they can almost like develop bad habits in these cases. So it does vary, to answer your question, but hamstring strains.
Yeah. Funny story. When I used to play soccer, like when middle school, high school, my coach just asked me to eat a banana when I had a calf strain, which is hilarious. Like, looking
Eat a
back.
banana.
Yeah.
And you're cured.
Yeah, there you go. Milsey, like, can you give us like the recap of all the head injuries which happened, and Lauren can touch upon that quickly?
Yeah, Sid. Yeah, and we also saw a rise in concussions and also head injuries because once again, Australia was falling apart earlier because their striker Mary Fowler and their fullback Avi Luke, they actually suffered mild concussions in training, but they were both cleared to play against Canada. Of course, Rose Lavelle, we saw in Netherlands, she actually collided heads with the Dutch midfielder Danielle van der Donk, and Van der Donk actually left the match. Now she's been cleared and she played against Vietnam, but Rose Lavelle came back. She still looked kind of groggy. I don't think she should have been able to go back on the pitch. And also just this morning, when South Korea was playing Germany, their midfielder Ji Son Yoon, she said she suffered a really bad one, and she got up and she actually fell back down, almost like Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and they immediately subbed her off.
Yeah. So, Lauren, like, are head injuries like taking more, like, are people taking it more seriously? Because I felt like in the previous World Cups, I don't think there was much scrutiny into head injuries in soccer, especially.
Absolutely. It appears that way for sure. And thankfully, because clearly the head's important and
Yeah.
it's highly involved in the game of soccer or football. And not just headers, but just I personally have had 4 concussions in my life as a soccer player. 2 of those were from soccer itself. But one was from a header and one was not. One was actually like a close range ball that just blew my head off.
Yeah.
But the other one was a player that miscalculated her angle of the header battle, and she headed my nose into my face and broke my nose, and gave me a concussion. So all that to say, yeah, it used to be like rub it off and
Mhm.
get back in there. Now they're taking it seriously. They have really excellent tools that have been developed with so much more research in the past few years. The main one is the SCAT. It's up to, I think they've just released the SCAT 6 in terms of the iterations of it. And it's an incredible assessment, very, very comprehensive. And it can be done within fairly short period of time, maybe 10, 15 minutes if the assessor is very skilled. But it goes over not only history, symptoms, severity of symptoms, but like memory, immediate recall, delayed recall in words, like numbers, cervical screen, neurologic signs and symptoms, balance. So it really touches all things. And then you actually have objective scoring. So I would like to think that with, Rose Lavelle, that, there was some objectivity, but there still comes a subjective decision from the coach and medical squad and, and whatnot. So I don't know, but I
Well,
have to say
that's,
that
yeah.
was it Vanderdonk? She's making like
Yeah.
the swim cap sexy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll give her that.
she actually had a laceration above her eye, and that actually got stitched up. That's why she had on the swim cap.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they're taking it more seriously than usual. Let's jump on to the next round. Of course, like amazing games coming up in our round of 16. But before that, Lauren, I wanted to hear your thoughts on Carly Lloyd's comments on the U.S. women's national team. And next day, literally the pressure of media and Twitter made her apologize. So what are your thoughts? Like, I feel like me and Mills should not be talking on this subject. So floor is yours. We want your comment on what happened. She's like one of the greats of women's soccer. And it was just like sad to see something like that.
I agree. I think Carly had every right to say what she said. I think she said it with a little spice, but considerable tact. Nonetheless, I think the media, and I'm not sure who else, really revved it up and made it more than what it was. And like, who are we dealing with here? Carly Lloyd, this legend, one of my favorite players, skill-wise for the team of all times, and really was a great playmaker in the midfield. I think that it's hard for the U.S. team right now because they're not what they're used to being. And that, you're going to feel that personally, and that's got to suck. But they really have to take it on the chin. And yeah, they need a little oomph. And as a woman thinking about another woman speaking her mind, I think like, she in this light. If a male said it, would the media react the same way? I don't know. Maybe we just all wanted a little drama, but
Yeah. So going off that, I know US celebrated pretty too, like, I don't know, a little inappropriately after getting a draw against Portugal. They play Sweden, and they're underdog against Sweden. What are your thoughts, Lauren? Like, and then we'll jump on to the other games as well.
yeah. My prediction is close to 50-50, but I'm worried. I'm more like 55 Sweden, 45 US, and I'm rooting for the US.
Yeah.
But I hope that this whole frenzy has lit such a fire into the US that they will come out and prove without a shadow of a doubt that they are going to win. I would love to see it, but they've had their chances in 3 games to really show us what they're made of, and they know that they're at the World Cup. So I wish that they didn't need this kind of catalyst, but time will tell. They did get beat by Sweden in the Tokyo Olympics early on. So but they have actually played against Sweden like more than any other team in past World Cups and have mostly won. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game, and I think my girl Rose Lavelle is going to be the star. I'm super excited. My favorite player is Rose Lavelle, so I'm super excited.
Rose Lavelle is suspended from that game. She got 2.
That's true.
She got
Oh
2
my
yellow
God.
cards.
That's
She got 2
true.
yellow cards.
Oh, so well, yes, it's going to be a tough game. Okay, Milty, that is so dumb on my part. I didn't even look into that. Milty, so what are the other games we need to look into for the group stages?
One is like one game that I'm really excited about watching, and probably because I want to see more of them, is the Nadeshuko, which is the Japanese women's national team, and they're playing Norway. I completely expect them to run away with this match because not only do they have the leading goal scorer in Hinata Miyazawa, but they also have the leading assist person in Mina Tanaka, and their attack is so multiple. Their attack is there's no hole on this team. And attack, defense, midfield, they boss everything. 11 goals during group play,
stages,
none conceded. They're the number. All roads to the final go through Japan right now.
Okay, and the other games which stood out to me were Switzerland and Spain, France, Morocco. I think that's going to be a sneaky good game, especially with I know there's like little political tension between Morocco and France out there, right out there. So I think it's going to be a great game. Pretty exciting group stages. Thanks a lot again, everyone, for joining. We'll cover the round of 16 matches in a couple of days. So have fun, Lauren. Have fun, Milsey. We'll see you guys in a